Yeah, that video is a little dated, isn't it? But I didn't want you to look at that video because I wanted you to critique the way they're dressed or kind of the way the music sounds itself. I wanted you to listen to the words, and what they have to say about love is actually pretty counter what we might hear otherwise. The fact that they're talking about love and saying that love is a verb, love requires action, is different than this idea that maybe love isn't something you do, but it's something that you feel. That love is a feeling. It's about how you feel. And that's the primary motivation for it. I have been reading the Twilight series by Stephenie Meyer. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but I started reading it because I noticed that there were a lot of girls from both the youth group and from the junior high group who are reading that series of books. I've made it through 3 of the 4 novels in the series, and essentially the storyline is about a girl and a vampire, and she and they are supposedly in love. Now, this probably wouldn't be the book series I'd pick as my first choice for reading. The other thing is, I'm not really sure that love, or at least what they're calling a love story, is exactly what it is. I might describe it more along the lines of an intense fascination with one another. But one of the things I noted as I'm going through reading this book is that these characters are talking about how much they love each other and they're just in love with one another. But it seems to be all based on how they feel. Everything they talk about related to love is, oh, having butterflies in my stomach, or being angry, or being sad, or upset, or some kind of issue going on in regards to love. A whole host of different kinds of feelings, lonely, empty, and all of these things are somehow related to love. They are, in fact, love in these books. But I'm not sure that that is the whole truth about love. In fact, I'm not sure that the Bible would say that's what love is. That's not to say that when we truly love somebody, there aren't going to be feelings involved. And I'm not even talking about romantic love specifically here. I'm talking about any love relationship that you have with your parents, with your brothers and sisters, with your extended family, even with your friends. There are going to be feelings that are associated with loving them, and yet that can't be the end of what love is, can it? It can't just be a feeling. Because what happens when the feelings are gone? Or what happens if you just don't feel anything at a certain point in time? Does that mean that you no longer love the person, or that you should no longer love the person? Well, what I think we ought to do is turn to the Bible to continue this discussion. And if you don't have a Bible with you right now, go ahead and hit pause and go get one. And I'll wait here just a second. But we want to look at a couple of passages here that talk about love in relationship to what it is that we've been doing. So I'll pause for just a second, but you go ahead and hit pause. Come back with a Bible, and then we'll get started again. Alright, what I want you to do is turn to 1 John 3. And we're going to look at verse 18. Again, I'll pause to let you turn to that spot. And if you think you need a little more time than just a couple of seconds, hit pause on the playback, and then you can start it back up again. Okay, so 1 John 3:18 reads, "Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth." Sort of sounds like what we were just talking about, doesn't it? I mean, this whole idea of not just loving with words or tongue. It's easy to tell somebody that you love them. You might not think so right this point in time, but it really is. I mean, if we can tell or talk about inanimate things and say that we love them, things like food or clothing or our favorite color, if we can do that, then it'd be easy for us to talk about loving somebody or telling somebody that we love them. And yet, again, love has to be something more than words, doesn't it? It has to be more than just something you say. Now, again, that's not to say that telling somebody that you love them isn't important, because it is. But it has to be more than that, just like it has to be more than our feelings, right? So, with that in mind, what John is telling us here is that love, or real, true love, requires action. He says that right in the verse there, verse 18. But what is he talking about when he's talking about action? Well, he gives us sort of an example in the verse preceding 18. Look at verse 17, which reads, "If anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need, but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him?" Now, John doesn't so much make a suggestion here about what love in action really is. Instead, he really asks a tough question of us. And here's what he's asking us. He's saying, if you see somebody that you know is in need, and that person happens to be a brother or sister in Christ, he's talking about a fellow believer here, and you know that they're in need, and you have the ability to help them, and you do nothing. The question he asks is, do you really love God? Is that really something that's important to you? That you truly love God? If you aren't able to demonstrate love to somebody else who is a follower of Christ? Tough question. I think we need to be honest with ourselves. We don't always feel like helping other people, whether they're fellow believers, people that we go to church with, or people that we just happen to know are Christians, or somebody else. We don't always feel like it. It can also be really difficult for us to give up something that we have, or to share something that we have with somebody else. Again, we don't like that idea. It doesn't make us necessarily feel okay to do those kinds of things. That's why it's so important that we don't allow feelings to dictate love to us, because our feelings can deceive us. The way we feel about a situation might not be right. The way we feel about a situation might not be loving. And that's why when John is talking in verse 18 to us, he's telling us that we need to do more than just words. We need to take action. That love takes action. And specifically what he's talking about here is that love takes action to care for somebody else. Love takes action. Real love is action, and it cares for somebody else, somebody besides me.